Great to see you all. I think we all can relate to the big issues that we have on the cyber front and the big risks that could come our way. I think data has been a double-edged sword in some ways, where it's created new risks and incredible opportunity. I'm going to start immediately, and I'll get my panelists to give me a sense of what they're doing at the moment as we try and navigate through these incredible risks that have emerged. Your Excellency, really good to see you. Estonia has been at the forefront when it comes to anything cyber, digital, and data. Give me a sense of what Estonia is doing at the moment with these new risks that have emerged.
The correct and honest answer is that we are not doing anything differently. Yeah. We do not see actually a rise number of attacks on our e-governance system. Of course, there are attacks, but everybody who runs an e-governance system or an e-banking system or whatever which is online, they do have to daily fight back the attacks. And of course, sometimes when they are important and they affect economy or your communication with your people, countries choose to also attribute these attacks. But actually, attribution is costly. Attribution is costly, and there is very little reward in nowadays world, because if you come under attack in a conventional terms, then you turn to UN Security Council. But UN Security Council took only in 2020, under Estonia's insistence, the first step even to start discussing how they deal with cyber risks and attacks. So attribution normally doesn't pay off. Therefore, we normally don't know where these attacks come from. They rain on us, and the rain is now not stronger than it used to be a few months ago. Let's say it this way.
Bruce, really good to see you. Ocean Protocol was founded in 2017, and it's really quite a fascinating a piece of software where it's making it easy to facilitate data exchange, and it helps startups and businesses. So give me a sense of what Ocean Protocol has been able to achieve since its inception.
So Ocean Protocol has the vision of creating kind of the tools and the systems to help share data around the world. We think that there's trillions in value if we can unlock a data economy that involves all 8 billion people on Earth. And so our job is to build open source technology where developers, startups, governments, large enterprises can use this to start to break the data silos and to also push back some control to individuals where the data is originally coming from. And so that's kind of our vision.
That's interesting. And of course, I'm very curious, like everyone is, what were the trends during the pandemic?
In terms of data?
Yeah, in terms of data and in terms of your role and... I mean, obviously a huge acceleration. Really fascinated to see.
In the pandemic, what has happened in the entire kind of space that I work in, which is crypto and blockchain, is that we had 2 years to build out technology without going to conferences, number one. But in terms of the data space, what's happened is that I think everybody kind of realizes, and we hear more and more from citizens, that they want more and more control of their data. They see the information that came out about COVID. We've always heard more and more about disinformation, data that's coming from multiple sources. And I think that there is a need that people are asking for to understand the provenance of data. Where does it come from? Who's kind of making money off of it? And so during the pandemic in the last 2 or 3 years, we've actually been building those tools that's going to give kind of verifiable audit trails on where data is coming from.
I wasn't asked about COVID effect on any e-governance services, which are obviously very much data related. But there we saw a huge change, and I'm really worried about this change because many governments rushed online with the services, with the ecosystems which they hadn't prepared, which they hadn't linked to single digital identities, and so on, so on. So since Estonia is kind of the flag bearer for all e-governance globally, if somebody's system is down the drain, all the idea is down the drain. So we need now to do a lot to re-secure and rethink what has been rushed online. So actually e-governance services saw a huge change, a huge rise, but also a risk pattern.
But you were prepared because you had already a strong
But I'm not talking about Estonia, I'm talking in general. Yes, that we saw that globally was worry that this was happening, that people rushed their services online without proper ecosystems, because without correct digital ID, actually no e-government system should be offered. I mean, all kind of nicknames, passcodes which arrive by SMS or email, it's strictly unsafe. But we saw a lot of this kind of patchwork coming online.
Francis, really good to have you with us. I mean, and that's the thing. A lot of governments were caught with their pants down because they just hadn't done digital transformation, and it meant that everyone had to quickly find a way around this. Yeah. So tell me about this experience.
It was very tough for governments. And all governments have drawn great inspiration from Estonia. I mean, when I was responsible in the UK government for digital transformation, one of the first trips I did was to go and sit at the feet of my colleagues in Estonia. And I remember saying to your predecessor, how was it that tiny Estonia became world leader for e-government? Yeah. He said we had, when we became an independent country again, and we ran a very big digital transformation program in Britain in 2010 to 2015, which got us eventually ranked in 2016 top in the world for e-government by the United Nations. But when the pandemic came, in terms of e-government, every government had to go into overdrive because the need for real-time information, accurate information for people was crucial. I mean, just on data and the exchange of data, it's trite now to say, it's a cliche to say that data is the new oil, it's the new raw material, and it's hugely important. Governments have always sat on vast quantities of data, and they guard it jealously to themselves, and they're very bad at sharing it. This is all data that's been accumulated essentially from the public, from citizens, and it should be owned by citizens, both in terms of owning their own data, but also collectively owning the benefits of the data. And in the UK, we ran this big open data program. And what, of course, you discover when you start to release data sets is you tap into a deep vein of creativity in government, people coming up with reasons why it can't be done. And the last reason they always come up with is they say, Minister, the quality of the data isn't good enough. We need time to clean it up and make it better. To which my response always was, publish it, and you'll find it gets better quite quickly. Partly through crowdsourcing, partly through embarrassment. But we have to prize these data sets out of governments. And one organization that's powerful in driving this is the Open Government Partnership, which I was part of setting up in 2011. It's now more than 70, nearly 80 governments, plus a lot of subnationals are part of it. But importantly, partnering with civil society organizations who use that data to help citizens to hold their governments to account and to hold them to account in real time, which is outside the comfort zone.
Bruce, I've heard this line before, the data is the new oil or the new gold, right? But we can't put data in our car to drive it, right? So how do we monetize on the data? I mean, just working on some of Francis's points is that we can make data work for us, but how do we truly capitalize on the full effects of it?
Right now, everybody looks at internet platforms as taking personal data, social graph, all this type of value, and then selling it for ads, using it for various algorithms for selling more product and stuff. But my strong belief is 97% of the data is in government, is in large enterprises, in supply chain and business processes, and all of this is some sort of a trade secret. And so if you can actually say, open up parts of the data to get the community innovation coming in from all parts of the world, you not only give, for instance, data scientists around the world the ability to test their new skills.
How do you balance the susceptibility then of being so open with your data and information versus the positives and the opportunities that offers?
I think that's it's a false dichotomy. You can be very open with your data, and most of the time, all the secrets that you think are in there, they're not really there. People,
Absolutely.
it's actually value that's lying untapped, not secrets. It's economic value.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think governments should try to monetize data that they hold. I think they should open it up for others to monetize it.
Extracting
one of the big benefits of our open data in the UK, our open data program, was the UK became a magnet for developers and entrepreneurs who were building really valuable projects and applications off the back of that data.
But I think before we go to discussing even monetizing the government data, I think we need to make one thing clear. The data is safe in the government's hands, and in the digital format it is much safer than it used to be on paper, because you are right, the old gold was sitting in the paper files, and these paper files never reported back to the citizens if these paper files were read. You basically needed forensic evidence, to make sure somebody has read them. In a properly set up government data system, ecosystem, you always know who has been looking at the data. Yeah. In Estonian case, this, by the way, is also open to the citizens themselves. You can check who has been looking for. And if, data is used in, of course, in an anonymous format for kind of academic use or business use, that's a different story. But first and foremost, data has to be indeed in government files kept safe. Later we can, use it for statistical reasons, for business purposes, but then it is not anymore somebody's data. Then it is taken through the systems and mechanisms which make it anonymous, which is extremely important to stress, I believe, here. Data in the government's hands in the file is safer than it used to be in the old paper file.
Bruce, I want you to weigh in here on cyber threats.
Yeah, I have 2 points to make. Number one is this: when it's open, systems when they're more open, people can challenge them and make them more resilient and robust. And that's a good thing. You have actually systemic strength by having them attacked more often. I think one of the problems right now is that we have the economic benefits of systems, of companies, taking people's data, government data, etc. They earn money off of that, but then all the risk is on the actual people and the users of systems. So you have closed source code, which can be attacked. It's intransparent, but the economic benefits are shared by a very few. And then you have the majority of people who are actually giving up their data, giving up the risk, and they're the ones who suffer.
Are you concerned the geopolitical environment will derail the plans we have to truly shift to digital, to make life easier, to remove the friction from our lives? Do you think it's going to accelerate it further, Your Excellency?
Digital technologies help us to neutralize geopolitical disadvantages, and this is why I'm quite sure that also this crisis greatly enhances this thinking and this understanding. Estonia creates also copies of its data, which are basically, okay, let's put it this way, in the cloud. We also have a digital embassy in Luxembourg, but this is more of a showcase. I think cloud is more useful nowadays. But of course, governments must first understand that cloud is not the horrible place where you put your data, because many limit, you have to have the data in this server physically in my country. If you keep doing this, you cannot reap the advantages.
I think that digital is infinite leverage. And so the more you can develop systems to handle government data, government services, just general services in the digital world, it's almost an unstoppable force. And anybody who is kind of weighted down by paper or old processes, it kind of relegates that government to be less service-oriented, less responsive, less understanding of what's happening in real time for their citizenry, their economy, and their society. So for me, it's obvious.
I think it's definitely going to accelerate. It needs to accelerate, but it's not unstoppable, because you're always fighting against inertia in government. You're fighting against, there's sometimes political pushback, sometimes vested
legacy
interest.
Systems.
And yeah, absolutely. And you have to drive it. And it's not mostly about the technology. It's mostly about mindset and culture and focusing it relentlessly around the citizen. Our mantra in the government digital service that I set up in the UK was, it's all about user need. What is the user need? When most governments organize themselves around their own convenience, which is a historical accident, and we have to rethink how we do government. Technology is a tool that can help that, but it's mostly about culture, orientation, and behavior.
But if I may add, very important element you missed out is you have to have permissive legal environment for digital development. So you have to first run away with the laws and only then follow with the systems. Yeah. Otherwise, you cannot develop a government system.
Thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you so much. Fantastic to see you. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.